Hi everybody. Today I'm going to show you how to do weaving with paper. So all you're going to need is paper, scissors, and maybe a glue stick. And I'm going to teach you how to notice this pattern where the paper starts under the base paper and then the next strip of paper starts on top of the base paper and then under. It's just kind of a pattern that you'll see repeated over and over in this weaving. And as you weave each piece of paper, you'll also see that same under-over pattern take place as the paper goes up and down through those strips that we cut in that base paper. Once you get the hang of that patterning, it's really pretty simple, but even on paper, you can see it creates a really neat effect, and then you can also weave all kinds of things, whether it's yarn or t-shirt yarn or other kinds of things using that same technique. So learning to weave with paper will be easiest if you start with some straight cut strips. So use an 8.5 by 11 paper, cut a few strips that are about 1/2 inch to 1 inch by 8.5. Then the base paper, fold it in half the hamburger way. So it's not too long and skinny, it's more of a squat rectangle. Then you're going to take your scissors, starting on that fold. This is important. Start cutting on the fold and make either a straight or a kind of wavy line and cut until you're about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch away from that open edge. You don't want that piece that's hanging on to be too fragile, so leave a little bit of space there. Then go back to the folded edge and cut another line just like that. So they can wave in different directions. You don't want them to be too close together or it becomes a lot of little pieces to weave in and out. It's certainly doable and it's really impressive when it's done, but not the easiest place to start. So just keep cutting, going back to that folded edge, only cutting from that edge toward the open edge. Go ahead and open that paper up and you can see you've got all of these wavy lines that kind of take up the whole of your paper. So when I talk about this, I'm going to call this your base paper. These are the pieces you're going to be weaving in and out of. So your first strip, if you want to follow along with me, I'm going to start my first strip on the bottom. It starts under the base paper and it pops up through that first cut, and then it's going to go down. It's going to dive down under the second cut and pop back up. So you can see each strip of paper that I've cut there in that base piece, it's going to start under and then go over, under, over, and just continue that pattern. Once you've got it all the way through, just push it over as far as you can towards that edge. So now on to strip number 2. The first strip started under that base paper and popped up through. So the second strip is going to start over. It's going to start on top of the base paper and go down. So you can see anywhere that the first strip is on top of the base paper, the second strip will be underneath. And it creates a kind of checkerboard pattern. So you should be able to push that strip right over against the first strip and notice that checkerboard pattern back and forth there. Now, if the orange strip started on top of the base paper, can you guess where this yellow strip is going to start? It's going to start on the bottom, underneath the base paper, and pop up through. And you're going to continue that under-over pattern all the way across. See, sometimes I have to kind of wiggle a little bit and pick that paper up in order to get my strip exactly where I want it. If your paper is heavier, sometimes you can just poke it through, and sometimes you really have to hold on to it. Okay, so for this strip, I'm going to show you what happens if you don't follow that pattern. The yellow strip started on the bottom. So if I start this green strip also on the bottom, do you see how it doesn't create that checkerboard pattern? Anywhere the yellow is on the bottom, so is the green. And it makes it so that green can go clear over and overlap that yellow instead of creating that checkerboard pattern. So if you have that happen, it's easy to fix. Pull that strip out, take another look. My yellow starts on the bottom, so my green is going to start on top of the white paper and go down. And you can see right away the difference between how those patterns look. You can see anywhere the yellow shows up, the green is hidden by the base paper. And there's no overlapping now. I can't push it over on top of the yellow because it's creating the opposite pattern. So one strip at a time, I want you just to work your way across that paper, filling up that base paper with those strips and creating that pattern. So there are a lot of different things to think about as you're weaving and keep track of, but once you get the hang of it, it's such a cool skill to have, and there are so many different ways to use weaving. So I can't wait to see what you make.